right, good morning, my virtual friends. Mrs. Kneifel will always be recording reading in Mrs. Siddick's class. Say hello. Hi. So, as you can see, or as you saw, hopefully the meeting link was just right on Google Classroom like it has been. So that's where the reading link will be every single day. It'll say the day of the week, meet link, and then you'll just click that, okay? Same with you guys. If you ever do need to get on it, you guys will just click it just like you have been doing. If there are any questions on how we get to our meet link reading, actual reading rotation is at 9:15 every single day. And it'll be in Mrs. Sig's class. So any questions there? No? Okay, well, I'm glad you guys are on. I'm so happy to see all of you guys in class, too. Gosh, I have missed everyone. Connor, put your headphones down because you don't need them, okay? Okay. Also, I'd like to, Logan, take off your headphones. Also, I'd like to let you know, some of you guys are really behind already in reading class, and that scares me because this is only our third week of the third 9 weeks. I sent emails out yesterday letting you know if you had a missing test or quiz. So, and I'm looking at Landon. I already said you don't need to be on this, so get off, please. So I'm just letting you know, some of you guys are really behind already, and that's not cool. So double check your emails and make sure you are done with stuff. Yesterday, you had an assignment for our e-learning day. Can someone tell me what your assignment was? Mia, nice and loud so our friends at home can hear you.
Vocabulary, and we had to search up the definition and then write a sentence.
Yes, it was vocabulary. And some of you guys, I know you didn't read the directions because you did it like we always do it and you just did sentences. But if I saw you doing that, I said, hey, double check. You need to fix it because we couldn't do the definitions together. So you had to do the definitions on your own. You could look them up in the dictionary. You could write it in your own words. Yes, that would be a dictionary. Dictionary.com is a form of a dictionary. I didn't care how you looked it up. You just had to look it up. But then you also had to do a sentence. So if you haven't done that yet, yesterday was an official e-learning day, meaning you had 3 days to do it. Tomorrow is a COVID e-learning day. COVID e-learning days has to be done the next day. So tomorrow's assignment will have to be done by Thursday. But yesterday's assignment you have till Thursday. If I were you, I would just get it done as soon as possible. Fantastic. Happy half birthday. So if you haven't done your reading assignment from yesterday yet, that's okay. It's not due yet, but you do have to get it done by Thursday. And if the way I'm explaining it with definitions and sentences and you think, I didn't do it like that, make sure you double check it because I don't want you guys to be getting questions wrong. So it looks like everyone in here has almost done it. I'll double check and make sure everyone did it correctly and you didn't forget to add the definition or the sentence or whatever. Does anyone have any questions about what we did for homework yesterday? Like I said, it's due by Thursday. Make sure you get it done. Most everyone in here has gotten it done almost, so that's cool. If there are no questions, I'm sorry. I haven't talked this much in forever, so my voice is already. I did bring my water. My voice is already like, can't handle it. We are going to go over these words together quickly, and before I start, and before someone panics, like in Mrs. Kneifel's class, can words have more than one meaning?
Yes.
Yes, and maybe the definition you found on dictionary.com, is it going to be the exact one on here? No, because remember, words had more than one meaning, and the definitions that we go over in class are the definitions of how it's used in our story. So it's okay if the definition you looked up doesn't match the one I say right here. Your sentence on your homework just has to match what the definition yours was, okay? Or some of you, if you use dictionary.com, maybe you wrote all the definitions because sometimes dictionary.com will tell you like 1, 2, 3, there's the definitions. Yeah. We only had to do that yesterday because the e-learning day was on a Monday. We won't ever normally have an assignment like that again. Mia.
It's okay if I just picked one. There was many there, but I just picked one.
Yeah, if you didn't do it right, I'm pretty sure I already made a comment on it. I'll go through them again before I grade them just to make sure you guys did them right. So if you're worried, I'm going to go through them. No big deal. But we are going to quickly go over these vocab words together. That way no one is confused when we read our story today. The first word is celestial. And I know there's some different definitions for this, but the way I'm going to use it is an adjective. Miss Mia, do you know?
Up in the sky or something from outer space.
So that can definitely be what it means. Celestial can mean like something up in the sky. Celestial, as it's going to be used in our story, means heavenly. Okay, so it's totally fine if you got the sky definition, right on. But celestial in our story, we're going to say is something that is heavenly. So a sentence could be, our trip out west was celestial, meaning it was heavenly. Okay, any questions? No? Okay. Number two, da, 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 da. None of you guys look excited to see Mrs. Kneifel, and I'm pumped to see all of you. Our next one is complaint. Everyone should know what a complaint is. What is a complaint? Mark, you raised your hand. What's a complaint?
I'm just going to say what well, a complaint is when someone doesn't like something, so they report it, and that's what a complaint is. And I said Karens do it a lot.
Okay. So that is a good way to put it. You're unhappy with someone, so you like voice it. You say it. Anyone else want to add to that? Ethan?
Complaint. A statement that a situation is unsatisfactory.
Right. A situation, unacceptable, unsatisfactory. Both those mean you're not happy with it. So a complaint is an expression of dissatisfaction. Isla, if you want to add to that, you can add to that. Isla. It's negative feedback or a negative comment or a negative opinion. If you're making a complaint, it's not going to be something positive, right? A complaint would be like, Mrs. Kneifel, or what if I was like, I hate that I'm here today. That would be a complaint, right? I don't hate that I'm here today. I'm happy to be here. A complaint would be like if you're at a restaurant and you get your food and it's cold and you have to, you're like, waitress, my food's cold. That would be a complaint, but that would be a legitimate complaint. Except for Mrs. Kneifel never complains at restaurants because I'm not really a complainer in my opinion. Some people like Karen's like that's a negative thing. That's a negative thing because I know a Karen. Actually, and I have an Aunt Karen, sweet as pie. But that is a thing in like media with memes and stuff that Karens are complainers. So anyone named Karen, that's sad because now their name is like ruined. Mia.
My grandma's name is Karen.
See, and is she nice?
Yeah, but sometimes she could be a bossy grandma.
Oh, okay. Hopefully your grandma doesn't watch this, Mia. My hair lady's name is Karen, and she's very nice. But anyways, we all know what a complaint is. Our next word is employed. What does employed mean? Landon Rebus, what does employed mean? Right, you hire someone to do a job and you pay them. Connor, would you like to add to that?
Employed means you pay someone from a job that has.
Are you going to say exactly what Landon just said?
No.
Are you sure? Okay, let's go.
So someone who is employed is someone who gets paid from doing a job.
That's exactly what Landon just said.
Different words.
But like Mrs. Kneifel, I am employed by Westville. Right now I'm doing my job and Westville pays me, right? So I'm employed. Where does your dad work, Mia?
What's it called?
You people gotta know where your parents work.
It's like somewhere kind of near Chicago.
All right. Where does your mom work, Olivia? At what?
Stray Dog.
Oh, Stray Dog. All right. Olivia's mom is employed by Stray Dog, which is a restaurant in Michigan City. Or Michigan, not Michigan City, sorry. So anyways, employed means if you employ someone, you hire them to do a job, you get paid to do it. I'm employed by Westville. So I am an employee of Westville, which employs me, okay? Okay. So we all know what an employee is, okay? None of you guys are employees currently unless you are working for cash, which technically you're still not an employee because then you wouldn't be paying taxes, not the same thing. Anyways, our final word for this week is sacrifice. Shh. Can someone please tell me what sacrifices. There's different types of sacrifice. I'm going to let you know right now. Put your hands down real quick. There's this type of sacrifice where it talks about like slaughtering animals and stuff, and that's a type of sacrifice. That is not the type of sacrifice that is in our story. I want the other type of sacrifice. Do you know what the other type of sacrifice is? Angelina, can you say it nice and loud for everyone? Don't talk about slaughtering animals and people, because that's not the sacrifice I want.
Sacrifice is like giving something up. It doesn't have to be an animal or a person, but you're sacrificing something for either something or someone. And
Right.
like
Yeah.
and like our parents, they sacrifice a lot for us just to like give us things that we want or that we really do need.
That's a good example. A sacrifice is the act of giving something up to get something else or to help someone. So, for example, if your cousin was coming to stay with you for a month, you might have to sacrifice your bedroom and share with them, right? You might have to give up part of your bedroom. Or, hey, shh, that's just an example. Voices should be off. If you can hear my voice, put your hands on top of your head. We got a lot to do today, okay? So, Angelina said, like, parents sacrifice a lot. Like, your parents might have to, miss your basketball game in order to work, but they need that money from work in order to pay for groceries and stuff. So, you have to sacrifice things. I'm trying to think, what is something Mrs. Knightville sacrifices? Or like maybe like in a kid's realm, like maybe your parents are like, okay, you might have to sacrifice some television time if you want to, like go to the theme park. I don't know. But sacrifice, we give up a lot of things without even realizing it sometimes, that you're making those little sacrifices. Olivia?
Can I add to sacrifice?
Yes.
So is the time Angela said where you give something up for a person or God?
Right. So a sacrifice, especially with like the slaughtering of animals, if any of you happen to be religious, totally fine if you're not. If you were to read the Bible, there's a lot of sacrifices where you give something up and you give it up for God. And then that's where this sacrificing or like the killing of animals comes from. So there's all different types. But the sacrifice we're talking about today is just giving something up in order to get something else. Okay? So, but that's enough religion because it's totally fine. Not all of us, I didn't not celebrate, but not all of us, what is the word? It's not
Worship.
Not, yeah. I can't even think of the word I'm looking for, but not all of us, are the same religion, and that's totally fine. But I need everyone to hop on to HMH. To our story for today. We are going to finish the entire story. It's only about 5 pages. It is called The Celestials Railroad. It is under assignments, of course. Please click on it. Shh, Landon. First off, if you have something to say, raise your hand. Second of all, do not talk to me that way because I am an adult and you are in 5th grade, not first. Yes, Olivia.
Is it okay if I was doing the assignment while we were playing video?
Sure. Yeah, hop on to HMH. I'm not going to share my screen. So those of you at home, I have my book here, but I wasn't planning on sharing my screen. So those of you at home, please go to the story. Mia, act like you want to be a part of class today. Mia. Yes. The Celestials Railroad. Can someone remind me what this module is called? Like, what are we even learning about in Module 4, Jaden? The Wild West. Actually, Mrs. Kneiffel's been enjoying this module. I don't know how you guys feel. Also, I don't know if you guys actually read Mrs. Sittig's weekly newsletter. Hopefully you do. But in the newsletter, I said we were going to be getting our Module 4 writing prompt this week. I changed my mind. We're actually going to be getting it next week, I think on Tuesday. But this, so just know, if you read in the weekly newsletter, we're getting Module 4 writing prompt. I changed my mind. We're not going to get it till next week, Tuesday. Okay? Is that cool? It is first off, let me just give you a little heads up. It is the shortest of our writing prompts. It is 2 paragraphs and 6 questions and 6 answers. And you're only going to have a little bit more than a week to do it because you really don't need that much time. It is the shortest of what we do, our shortest one. So hopefully that makes you guys smile. It's not going to be the world's longest. But that's not till next week, so no one worry about that. Anyway, so we're talking about the Wild West, and now all of a sudden this is about railroad. What the heck does the Wild West and a railroad have to do with each other? Does anyone know? Based off the top of your head, or make a prediction, make a guess, make an inference. What do you think a railroad and the Wild West have to do with each other, Dylan? I'm sorry, I have to keep on taking off my mask to take a drink. My throat is killing me. Because I'm talking so much. Dylan, hook us up with what you think.
I think that the railroad, or after they, a few years after they did the travel the air by wagons and stuff, I think they made a railroad connecting the west to the east.
All right, so Dylan just made a great prediction. He said, hey, people were traveling west by foot, with their wagons. So he said that, hey, maybe they made a railroad connecting the east to the west because that's where people are moving, right? They started in the east, they went west. Were there like cars and airplanes to take us? No, there wasn't even railroads. So that is a great prediction, Dylan, thinking, hey, maybe someone created a railroad to connect east to west. So we're going to get started. We should be on the prepare to read page. And this says the genre study is a magazine article which gives information about topics, persons, and events. Clearly, this is not an actual magazine article because it's in our textbook, right? Is this a magazine? No. But this story could be a magazine article. It's giving us information about topics, a person, or an event. So does that make it fiction or nonfiction, everyone? Nonfiction. We're going to be hearing real life information. Like I said, almost all of Module 4 is nonfiction. So magazine articles often present things in chronological order to help readers understand what happened and when. Someone remind me either A, the synonym for chronological order, or what chronological order is. I talk about it like every single week. My voice. Oh my gosh, Abby, do you know? Okay. So the correct order mean this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. What's the other word for that, Kaden? Yeah, it goes by time. There'll be dates in here that'll really help us put it in order. Jaden? Sequential. Remember, sequential and chronological order mean the same thing. There are dates in here that help us. Like we could create a timeline over what happened when. Maybe we'll make a timeline on Thursday. Someone remind me of that. So we will be able to see dates in here that you would be able to make a timeline and see what happened when. Articles, this is related to social studies, which means there may be content specific to social studies, same as all of our other Wild West stories. We know what content-specific words are. Those are words that are specific to a content area like science, math, or social studies. And lastly, magazine articles often include text features such as captions and sidebars that give additional information about a topic. We know what sidebars are. They're literally off to the side, and they give us more information about the topic without actually being part of a story. And why would we, if there's a picture and there's a caption underneath it, what is that caption for? Why would there be a caption underneath a picture? What would that be for? Someone tell me. Mark, what are captions for in a picture?
The caption is to describe what's going on in the picture or who's in the picture, what's in the picture, something like that.
So especially in nonfiction text, they give us a picture and then they explain the picture. That way you know what it is. Because sometimes you might not be able to guess. So literally it's just, the caption is to help us understand the picture better, understand what's going on, who's in it, etc., etc. So, The Celestial Railroad by Bruce Watson. No, my page didn't even turn. That stinks. I need you guys on the first page of it right here. 2 decades after pioneers began migrating to the Wild West, the U.S. government in 1861 agreed to the construction of a transcontinental railroad system that would link California to a rail network in the eastern United States. So we have our first date. What is our first date? Mia? 1861. So that's a date. That would be maybe the first thing on our timeline. Sorry. And then, what is a decade? How long is a decade? 2 decades. How long is 1 decade? Landon? 10 years. So 2 decades is 20 years. So 20 years after people are really moving west, the U.S. government was like, you know what? Yeah, Let's make a railroad. Let's like make these people's lives easier. So for 20 years, people have been traveling by foot. Okay, that's a long time. Well, really longer than that. People have been traveling by foot, but they're like, all right, let's make a transcontinental railroad. That means a railroad that's connecting the continent. So from east to west. So go Dylan. He was correct. Everyone air five Dylan. Woo. Okay. On the Utah prairie where 1,000 workers had gathered for the ceremony, 4 Chinese men carried a iron rail towards the track. It was the last link in the railroad that within moments would span the continent. The date was May 10th, 1869. The Union Pacific locomotive stood on one side and the Union Pacific to the other. So this story is a little bit interesting because in our first paragraph, in our italics, it talked about how it started in 1861, and now we're at the end. We're connecting the two railroads of May 10th, 1869. So if we were to make a timeline, May 10th, 1869 would be at the end, and 1861 would be at the beginning. And the rest of the story is going to be what happened in the middle. So there were two, I don't want to say teams, but 2 companies that helped build the railroad. One company was the Union Pacific, and one was the Central Pacific. And they started in different spots, and they met. And on May 10th, 1869, that is when the railroad was officially completed. Because they called China the Celestial Kingdom, the Chinese workers were known as Celestials. Few of their fellow railroad workers bothered to learn their names. No one knew their names today, but it was on the backs of these Chinese workers that the first transcontinental railroad was built. We are going to learn a lot about how the Chinese workers really played a major part in our nation having a railroad system. For the Chinese, the work began as an experiment. Many Chinese men had come to America during the first California gold rush. When they did not strike it rich in the gold fields, they sought other work but faced discrimination instead. All right, so these men, because not people in the United States weren't the only ones who heard about the California gold rush. These people came from China, and they were like, oh, snap, gold in California, let's go. So they get to the United States by boat, just like how people came from England. They're here. And now they ended up in California. They didn't strike it rich. Now they need another work. And they're trying to find jobs. But what does discrimination mean? Can someone describe what that means to me? Discrimination is not a good thing. Ethan?
It's like telling somebody they can't do something because they look different.
Okay, Ethan said someone not being able to do something because they look different, maybe because they sound different, maybe because their race or anything like that. Even if Mrs. Kneifel was like, I do not like anyone with blonde hair. No one with blonde hair gets to be in my classroom. That would be me discriminating against someone. Discriminating is not a good thing, obviously. So these Chinese workers, because of their race, because they were Chinese from another country, their English or like whatever language they were speaking probably wasn't that good. All these different factors, when they're trying to find jobs, they're having trouble because people are like, no, you can't because, you're Chinese. In 1863, Central Pacific, never mind. I'm going to continue. We'll go over the picture at the bottom in a little bit. In 1863, Central Pacific and Union Pacific Railroad tycoons agreed to build a coast-to-coast link. The Union Pacific would head west from Omaha, Nebraska, while the Central Pacific would extend east from Sacramento, California. The 2 companies mapped the routes, raised the money, and hired the workers. All right, so it's 2 years after the United States was like, yeah, let's build a transcontinental railroad. Now they're finally like figuring it out. So if we were making a timeline, 1963 would be when they decided where their starting points would be. Within a year, the Union Pacific was well into Nebraska, but the Central Pacific had bogged down at the edge of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Can someone tell me? Well, first off, Nebraska is pretty sure is like kind of flat or whatever. So they're just trucking right along through Nebraska, but the other people are bogged down. That means stopped at the edge of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Why would it be hard to build a railroad at the Sierra Nevada mountains?
Maybe
Abigail?
because mountains are like tall.
Right, because mountains are really big. So they're either A, going to have to go up, which would be really hard. They're going to have to go around, which would be really hard. Or they're going to have to go through. All of those options are really difficult and will take a lot of time. So the one people, they're having grand old time. They're trucking right along through Nebraska, and the other people are like stuck. They're like, okay, how are we going to get through this mountain? In California, most men were busy searching for gold or silver. To complete his contract, railroad magnet, Charles Crocker needed help. Over protest of his workers, Crocker turned to the Chinese. So he's in California and he needs help to build this railroad, Mr. Charles Crocker, okay? He knows that. Obviously, he can't do it by himself. But everyone's looking for gold. He can't find workers, but he knows the Chinese are available. The other people, the other workers are protesting him asking the Chinese for help. Why would the other workers be protesting him asking Chinese for help? The Chinese for help, Dylan?
Because their workers are discriminated.
Right, they're being discriminative towards the Chinese. So Charles's workers that he already has are like, no, don't ask the Chinese, don't ask the Chinese. But Charles is like, hello, we need help. So anyways, he goes against their wishes. He turns to the Chinese men. In February 1865, 50 Chinese men were transported by flat car to the rail's end in the Sierra foothills. While other workers jeered and threatened to strike, the Chinese calmly set up camp, boiled rice provided by the company, and went to sleep. Up at dawn with picks and shovels in hand, they worked 12 hours straight without complaint. By sundown, Crocker had telegraphed his office in Sacramento, send more Chinese. Within months, 3,000 Chinese were pushing the Central Pacific eastward. By the end of 1865, more than 6,000 Chinese were working on the railroad. So, how were the men treated when they arrived at the worksite? The Chinese men, how were they treated? Mia.
Badly, they didn't get treated the same as the other people.
Right, they were like treated badly. People were like threatening them and stuff. But what did the Chinese do when they were experiencing this discrimination? How did they react towards it? What did they decide to do? Why do you keep on clicking things? No one else is touching their keyboard, okay? What did they decide to do? Olivia?
I think they decided to just do it without a complaint so that nothing bad would happen to them, so they wouldn't be killed, maybe.
Okay, that's one thing. But we have actually what exactly they did when they arrived at the camp. What did they decide to do? Dylan.
Okay, so other workers jeered and threatened to strike. The Chinese calmly set up camp, boiled rice provided by the company, and went to sleep.
Right. So the Chinese got there. They heard all this stuff from the other workers, and they literally just ignored it. They set up their camp. They ate their food. They went to bed. They just pretended like it wasn't even there. And they just got to work. They were happy to have jobs. They just were, yeah, let's get to work. So there's 3 pictures at the bottom, and all 3 of these pictures have captions. So the first picture on the left-hand side is this ginormously tall something, and like, there's no safety harnesses there, and that's made out of wood, and Mrs. Knife would not be on top of that thing. And it says, construction workers stand on flat cars being pushed by a locomotive across a railroad trestle at Promontory Point in Utah. So this is in Utah. It's called a trestle, and it's just like what the rail is on, the train rail. What's a locomotive? This was one of our vocabulary words a really long time ago. What is a locomotive? Oh, let me give you a hint. Bryden? Yeah, it's a train. The locomotive is like the steam engine or the thing that has the coal and it pushes it. So a locomotive is a train. So a flat car is just it's just a regular rail car, but without the sides. So there's people on it. The other picture says, snow didn't stop on the railroad. Here, Chinese laborers dig a train out of a drift near Ogden, Utah. So, hey, they worked in all weather. And then wearing wide brim hats, Chinese laborers worked on Sacred Town Trestle in Sierra Nevada mountains. So, that looks hard to build, just for the record. But wide brim hats would keep the heat off of them more, so that's why they wore those. Please turn the page. As the Central Pacific soared towards Donner Summit at the top of the Sierras, the Chinese took jobs no one else would touch. They hung from ropes draped over the edges of cliffs and tapped holes into the side of the mountains. After inserting dynamite, they jerked the ropes and were yanked upward. If they were lucky, they cleared the explosion and lived to tap more holes. If not, they fell into the gorge below. A gorge would be like basically like the bottom, like a ravine, like it's dug out. It's not going to be flat. Regardless, if you're falling from a mountain, you're going to get hurt. Chinese workers blasted tunnels with nitroglycerin when other workers would not touch the explosive liquid. They graded hillsides, they chopped trees, they carried dirt in wheelbarrows, filled gorges with it, leveled it, and laid railroad ties evenly across it. Other workers then laid the iron rails and hammered them down while the Chinese went ahead to prepare the next mile. So how could we describe the Chinese workers? Let's describe them. Abby, give me a descriptive word. Fearless. That's great. They literally are hanging off the side of a mountain and making it blow up. They are definitely fearless. Bryden. Okay. Mia? Hardworking, fearless, hardworking. I would say they're really determined, like they know the job that has to get done, and they're not letting it stop them, right? Paragraph 10. Most other workers ate stale meat and drank brackish water. Brackish water is going to be like brown, dirty water. It's not going to be like clean drinking water. Because the Chinese paid for their own food, they were allowed to choose food. They chose things that were familiar to them, such as oysters, cuttlefish, vegetables, rice, and tea. Crossing the Dunner Summit at 7,000 feet, many workers took sick or quit, but the Chinese kept going. So here, lots of the workers probably got sick because of what they were eating. Lots of workers just ate what was around, like the English settlers workers, which would be like meat that was bad, and this brackish water, which is just dirty water. But the Chinese knew that food was important for their bodies, so they're using some of the money they're working to buy good food that's actually going to nourish their bodies. So they're not the ones getting sick. They're able to continue work, but everyone else is kind of getting sick because they're not, fueling their bodies with the right stuff, and it's bad for them. Mobs of white workers tormented the Chinese at every camp along the way. But across Nevada and into Utah, the Central Pacific inched towards the Union Pacific. And on April 27, 1869, Central Pacific crews, by then 90% Chinese, laid 10 miles of track in a single day, a new record. 10 miles of train track in a single day. Do they have cranes to help them out? No, they're literally carrying all this iron and everything by hand. 10 miles would be like from here all the way to like Papa John's in Michigan City, I think is about 10 miles. That would be a lot to all do by hand, and they're all walking. So that is crazy, 10 miles in a day. By the time the two railroads met at Promontory, Utah, the Central Pacific employed 12,000 Chinese workers. Together with the Union Pacific crews, they watched as railroad tycoons drove in their golden spikes. But when the camera recorded the event, the Chinese workers were left out of the picture. Let's talk about that. Why do you think the Chinese were left out of the photo? You can see the photo below. Let me read the caption real quick. Despite all their hard work, not one Chinese worker was present for this photo taken at the joining of the Union Pacific and the Central Pacific. So here we are, Union Pacific, Central Pacific. They're meeting, they're finishing it. Obviously, that's a huge event. Let's document it. But none of the Chinese, even though there's 12,000 of them employed, are in the photo. Why are they not in the photo, Ethan?
Because a lot of people throughout the future would probably be really upset about it.
Okay, so I don't think it has anything to do with the future. I think it has to do with what's currently happening right in the story. Bryden.
I think it's because they're not American and they're Chinese and they're treated differently.
Right, they were being discriminated against. So the people in charge, the people who are the head of the railroads, didn't want everyone else to know the Chinese did all the hard work, right? They wanted them to think that, just the settlers and we're doing the hard work. So they left the Chinese out so people wouldn't know that the Chinese did really the majority of the work, right? So I already read the caption that goes with the picture down here. Go back to the left page and we're going to read the caption for those two photos. East portal of Summit Tunnel of the Central Pacific Railroad during construction in the Sierra Nevada mountains, California. So you can literally see that dark spot is a tunnel going into the mountain. All the other side of it around it is literally a mountain. So they have to dig through a mountain, and how to get through it, they literally put dynamite in it and blow it up in hopes it goes okay. Okay? Like, that's crazy. That would not be my job.
It looks pretty awesome. That would look pretty awesome if you're getting pulled up and there's just an explosion right on your
Would be cool, but I'm sure it's dangerous because their safety harnesses would not be like our safety harnesses today. I need you to turn the page to our last page of our lovely little story. Yeah, that's it. That's not like ours today. May 10th, 1869. The single word done was telegraphed across the continent. Remember, the continent is the United States. What? Why does it say done? What does that mean? Done with what? Why is the word done telegraphed across the United States? What are we talking about? Someone at home? Anyone? Jacqueline, tell me. Why is done telegraphed?
Because they finished the entire railroad.
Right. The whole country knows they're working on this railroad, so they telegraphed it everywhere, done, and everyone's going to know, oh, snap, it's done. Life's going to be easier. Finished with their monumental task, the Chinese rode the Central Pacific back across the track they had laid. Some went back to Chinatown, communities of Sacramento, San Francisco, and other cities. So Chinatown just refers to like where a large population of Chinese live. That's all. Others went to Canada, where they helped build the Canadian Pacific Railroad, or worked on routes in California. Many spread out across the West, finding work or staking claims in mine towns such as Deadwood, South Dakota, and Tombstone, Arizona. Their labor and sacrifice had connected the east and west coast of the growing nation. So because the Chinese were willing to work so hard and risk their own lives, sacrifice their own lives sometimes, that is why the United States was able to get connected so fast. Without the Chinese, would we have got connected? Yeah, of course, eventually. It just would have taken a much, much longer amount of time. And then we have this thing at the bottom that says, come one, come all. It's off to the bottom, and it's a different color, which makes this a what? Sidebar. Thank you. This part at the bottom is a sidebar. It says the Chinese were unique in America's westward expansion because they were one of the few immigrant groups that did not come to settle permanently. Drawn for many reasons as Americans who were looking for a better life or religious freedom, immigrant groups from around the world established small communities throughout the West. Most of the Chinese, however, were men who had left their families behind in China. Their intention was to work hard, save their money, and return to their homeland. So traditionally, or most, like all the people who came from England, they came to the United States to stay in the United States. No one's heading back. But lots of the Chinese men didn't bring their families. They brought themselves. They wanted to work, and then their goal was to go back home. So what is the main idea of the of this sidebar? Main idea or central idea. What is the goal of this sidebar to tell us? What is the goal of the sidebar? What is the sidebar trying to tell us? Mark, your hand is up.
Sorry, I accidentally left it up.
Okay, Dylan, you want to give it a try? What is the goal of this sidebar? What's it trying to tell us?
They're trying to tell us that most of the Chinese did not stay permanent.
Right, and that other groups of immigrants did. So the main part of the main idea of this little sidebar is that the Chinese were different from other immigrant groups because they did not choose to stay forever. There is a picture at the bottom. Let's read that caption. These locomotives in Utah's Golden Spike National Historic Sites are replicas of engines present at the meeting of the two railroads. So obviously when the two railroads met to connect, it was a huge deal. So they have these fancy locomotives. But what does a replica mean? If something's a replica, it is a what? What's a replica? Someone I have not talked to today. What's a replica? What's a replica? Avery, what's a replica?
Kind of like a remake of something.
Yeah, it's a remake or a copy of something. That's what a replica is. So you can still see these trains like here today, but they're not the original ones, okay? These are replicas. They're remade to make it look like they were back then. Yes, Abigail?
You know what a replica is because probably the old ones have sharp spikes and stuff on them.
Right, and they're probably just broken down because they were probably used too. So they probably just,
Probably rust.
Yeah, they probably just didn't make it because that was a long time ago. Remember, today's 2021 and you can still see these, but those things are made back in the 1860s. That's, 100 plus years ago, 160 years ago. Okay, so tomorrow is another e-learning day, but tomorrow is a COVID e-learning day, which means your assignment is due the day after. Yesterday's assignment was a regular e-learning day, which means you have 3 days to get it done, which is why it's not due till Thursday. But tomorrow's e-learning day is a COVID e-learning day, which means your assignment will be due before reading class on Thursday, okay? It'll be an assignment. I haven't totally decided how I want to set it up yet, so I'm not going to tell you because I haven't totally decided. But it'll be an assignment, and of course, I want you to read for AR for at least 20 minutes. You need 20 AR points, okay? So make sure you guys are starting to read, especially now that most of us are back in school. Make sure you check out books from your library. If you have a book in mind that you don't know if you have, or even if you guys are at home, if you need me to get a stack of books together and have your parents come pick them up, just let me know. I'm happy to get books. If there's any books that you guys in here in class are thinking of, I might have it. Just let me know. But we should be reading. Also, Mrs. Sittig's class was the winner of our ice cream treat. So we will get that soon, maybe at the end of the week. I got to remember to bring cash in. So we will be doing that soon. Thank you guys for participating. This will, of course, be recorded. No, it is recorded. The recording will, of course, be posted today. There is no homework in reading class today unless you haven't finished your vocab yet from yesterday. And if you already have, you're good. But, of course, you need to read for AR tonight. That's something we do every night. But if you do not have any questions, you are free to leave me. If you are virtual, Angelina, what's up?
Can my reading RTI count as me reading for AR? Because we have to read 1 through 4 chapters today.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay.
Any questions? If not, you're free to leave. Landon, you have a question?
I have a question, another question. So can you stop the recording? Because it
Yeah, hold
doesn't.
on.
Okay.
Landon, what's up?